The cruelest journey is the one that ends exactly where it began, because only then do you finally see what was always there. The morning Tad came home, the pond looked smaller than he remembered. The lily pads seemed ordinary, the water unremarkable. The frogs who still lived there, older now, slower, settled into the familiar shapes of lives that had stayed, looked up at him with expressions that were warm but carried something underneath the warmth. Something that asked, without asking, was it worth it? Did you find what you left to find? Tad stood at the edge of the water he had been born in and felt the full weight of an answer he was not ready to say out loud. Not yet. He had left at 23 with the particular confidence of a frog who has decided, completely, finally, without room for argument, that he was simply in the wrong place. The pond of his birth was fine. He would never have said otherwise. The water was clean, the frogs were kind, the lily pads were green in spring, and the evenings were long and golden in summer. And there was nothing specific, nothing he could point at and name that was wrong with any of it. That was exactly the problem. Fine was not enough for Tad. He had a feeling, deep and persistent and impossible to reason with. The feeling that somewhere beyond the eastern reeds, beyond the forest, beyond whatever was on the other side of every horizon he had not yet crossed, there was a pond that was his. Not just a pond he lived in, his. The one that would fit him so precisely, so completely, that the feeling of wrongness he had carried his whole life would simply, finally, stop. So he left to find it. The first pond beyond the forest was beautiful, genuinely beautiful, wide and clear and full of frogs who moved with a particular energy that felt, in the first weeks, like exactly what he had been searching for. He settled in, built routines, told himself, this is it, this is the one. 6 months later, the feeling came back. Quieter this time, more embarrassing, because he had been so certain. But there it was, the same low hum of not quite right. The same restless sense that the real pond, the perfect one, was still somewhere ahead. So he moved again. This became the pattern of Tad's life for 11 years. Each new pond arrived with promise. Each one revealed over months the same collection of imperfections that all living places eventually reveal when you stay long enough to see them honestly. Every pond had murky corners. Every pond had difficult frogs. Every pond had seasons that tested you, and mornings that disappointed you, and stretches of ordinary gray days that felt like the pond was simply not trying hard enough. And every time, Tad moved, carrying the absolute conviction that the next water would be different. What he did not understand, could not understand from inside the searching, was the thing the searching itself was doing to him. Every departure was teaching him that discomfort was a reason to leave. Every new beginning was training him to associate the feeling of arrival with the feeling of rightness. Temporarily, addictively, just long enough to keep him moving. He was not finding better ponds. He was becoming a frog who could not stay. The elder who stopped him was nobody remarkable, an old frog on the bank of the 7th pond. Watching Tad pack his things with the calm expression of someone who had seen this particular frog before, in different bodies, different ages, different ponds, enough times to know exactly what was happening. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To find a better pond," Tad said. The answer came so automatically it frightened him slightly. "What does it look like?" she said. "The better one." Tad opened his mouth and stopped, because standing there with his things packed and his direction chosen, he realized he had no answer. Not a real one, not a specific one, just the feeling, just the persistent, formless, unfalsifiable feeling that it was somewhere else and he would know it when he arrived. The old frog looked at him for a long moment. "I have met 100 frogs like you," she said quietly, "and every one of them described their perfect pond to me. And every description, without exception, sounded exactly like the place they came from. Before they decided it wasn't enough, Tad did not leave the next morning. He sat with those words instead. Turned them over the way the river turns a stone, slowly, from every side, until the edges soften into something you can actually hold. And began, for the first time in 11 years, to look at where he was instead of where he was going. The pond he was in was imperfect. Every corner of it. The water was sometimes murky. The frogs were sometimes difficult. The mornings were sometimes gray in the particular way that asks you to find your own warmth instead of borrowing the world's. It was also, he saw now with the slow astonishment of someone recovering from a very long confusion, genuinely, quietly, irreplaceably beautiful. Not because it was the best pond in the forest, but because he was finally standing still long enough to see it. He went home. Not immediately, not dramatically, just eventually, with the unhurried certainty of a frog who has stopped running and started walking. The pond of his birth was smaller than he remembered, and more beautiful than he had ever allowed it to be. His name was Tad, and the perfect pond had been waiting, patient and unchanged, and exactly as he had left it, for 11 years. It had never moved. Only he had. Stay with us. The pond has more stories to tell.